Hey everyone, so I kind of wanted to talk about the clear a little bit more and kind of give my thoughts on some of the things I did, why I did it, and kind of the planning behind how I was able to get this clear. Yes, the title does say free-to-play C0R1 Skirk because I indeed am a free-to-play player, and the only reason I was able to get this clear was I got lucky on the weapon banner and I recently got her signature weapon. And I do think for Dire 6 clear, C0R1 is kind of like the minimum baseline. However, most of the clears that I saw from the Dire level with C0R1 Skirks usually have other supports with signatures like Escaffier's signature, some other supports at Constellations like Farina C2, and almost everyone was using Shenhe as Skirk's 4th slot support, which should be her best teammate for this boss. So I kind of wanted to see if I could clear the Overseer device on Dire level with just C0R1 Skirk, and for the rest of the 5-star supports, just C0, no signature weapons. So to talk about team building, originally I did try Yelan, which I think should be my overall best support for my Skirk. However, I found that for the Overseer device, Yelan's extra Hydro application did actually mess up the boss because her extra Hydro application would reactivate his attacks, which means that the boss would just gain the res again, and if I go back to Skirk and she does no damage, that I was already behind on damage. So if Yelan's Hydro application just reactivated the boss's resistance, I would definitely not have enough damage. So Yelan was definitely out of the question after realizing this. The second character I tried was Rosaria. Now Rosaria was a little bit better than Yelan because of course she's cryo, she gives 4-piece noblesse, and she has a crit rate buff. However, I found that I still didn't have enough damage, and while the extra Favonius user was nice, as I'll talk about later, I did find that some of the timings just didn't line up for Rosaria. So at this point I was struggling on what I should do and was considering whether or not this would be possible, and then I saw a tweet from Karen and I saw that they use Charlotte. So then I thought, well, Charlotte does hold TTDS, she can also hold 4-piece noblesse, so I'm kind of trading the crit rate from Rosaria for a TTDS attack buff, which may be better, so I decided to roll with that. My Charlotte is definitely not leveled, she's just stuck at level 40, her talents are absolutely nothing. It doesn't really matter, she's just there for ult and for TTDS. I think that without C4 she does have a lot of energy issues because C4 just gives you a lot of energy. However, even with my Charlotte as C1, I was able to make it work. She just has like all energy recharge with 4-piece noblesse. In terms of the other characters, for Skirk, I do believe that in this type of team, 4-piece Marchese Hunter should be better, assuming all equal subs. However, I did use a Marchese Hunter set for Skirk, and it didn't feel like it was performing better than my 4-piece Finale of the Deep Galleries, probably because other than my Hourglass, which I think is kind of mid, the other pieces on my 4-piece Galleries are just really good. So that's probably why 4-piece Finale of the Deep Galleries felt better for me. For Farina and Escaffier, I did experiment a little bit with adding some pieces that had more energy recharge like this one. However, I realized that I was just a bit behind on damage, so I kind of just decided, oh, I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I need a little bit more damage for my support, so I'm just going to try to deal with the energy issues, because with double Favonius, the energy issues should be fine, and both of them did have a good amount of energy already. There were just some times where I just didn't have enough energy, whether it was because my Fab didn't proc or whatnot, so I thought that adding a little bit of more energy recharge would help with that. After trying it, it didn't really make much of a difference, so I decided, you know what, screw the energy recharge, I need more damage, I'm just going to keep it on my original builds that had more damage. And with that, let's go over the clear footage. I kind of just going to give my thoughts on why I did a specific rotation and my thought processes on why I did what I did, as I did have to hit my head against this boss for a couple of hours to perfect the rotation. So first things first, once we start the battle, of course we all start with 0 energy, which is kind of annoying. So first I went to start off with Escaffier to use her skill. That will apply the cryo resistance first, so to start to deal a little bit of damage, but of course the main thing is to build energy on supports. So as you can see, I instantly start to Escaffier, then I dash forward to the boss as quick as possible, then use Escaffier's E. Then I will switch to Farina and use her skill, same thing, just start the off-field damage and generate particles for my supports. So at this point, the boss will start to use his little spinny attack where you need to apply cryo to shut him down, because currently he has like a lot of resistance and you need to shut him down, otherwise he will take no damage. So in order to do this, I do swap to Skirk. This is not Skirk's first major damage rotation, I just need Skirk to apply cryo, then we can use our supports before doing our main damage rotation. So here I just do an N5 because I found that, well, the boss is still charging up, I can fit in N5 and it's timed out very well. So I do an N5, and then at this point the boss will have its bar like spawning like really quickly, so I will charge attack. I found that charge attack was the fastest way to shut him down. I'm not completely sure, but I do 4 charge attacks, and I found that 4 charge attacks is enough to shut down the boss. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. I dash in between just to make it faster. Then, if you didn't know, you actually get a ton of clear energy particles when you first shut down the boss's attack. So the first time you do it, you get a ton of particles, so it really helps with, especially with this first rotation, get all the energy for your supports. So with this energy and the boss shutdown, he is ready to be attacked. So first things first, I switched to Farina and used her burst. Because I used her skill second, I'm not going to recast it because I can't recast it. However, Farina's skill has a long duration, so that's perfectly fine. So the next thing I have to do is use Escoffier's burst. For the healing, generate fanfare. At this point, Escoffier's E is at a 1 second cooldown, but as I said before, I wanted to use Escoffier's E first because I wanted this to come off cooldown again because I want the extra cryo particles because I need energy for the next rotation. And as I mentioned in the build section, I did decide to not build as much energy, so these extra particles from this extra skill cast is very helpful. So use Escoffier's skill again. Then, because Escoffier's skill generates a good amount of cryo particles, I decide to funnel the particles into Charlotte. So I used her burst instantly. Then I use Charlotte's skill. Charlotte's skill doesn't do anything really, especially since my Charlotte is C1. However, this is purely just for extra cryo particles, and yes, I need all the energy I can. So I just use it just to use it. Then this is where Skirk will actually start to first deal her damage. Now, I think most casual players with Skirk will know that her gameplay is pretty much skill, Q to absorb risk, then spam normal attacks, charge attack in the middle when her bar is getting low, and then just keep spamming normal attacks. However, this type of hard endgame content, especially with minimal investment with just like C0R1, you really need to squeeze as much damage as possible, which means optimal Skirk rotations are pretty much necessary to just give that extra damage. So instead of doing like a baseline 20 normal attacks that you would probably get with just spamming normal attacks and not really thinking, I do manage to do a lot of dash cancels to fit in 24 normal attacks within each Skirk on-field duration. Now, I'm not going to say that is the best rotation you can have. However, I found that I practiced this pretty well. I can almost consistently do this rotation and get 24 normal attacks, and 24 normal attacks is on the upper end of optimization in terms of Skirk combos. So I'll kind of briefly explain what the Skirk combo that I performed is. So the full Skirk combo that I do is tap skill, N5 into special burst, 2 N5s dash canceling each of them, 2 normal attacks into a charge attack, as well as a dash cancel, another N5 with a dash cancel at the end, and then a final N2. There's pretty much a cancel after each of her attack strings to ensure that you can fit extra attacks within each Skirk on-fielding duration. So let's slowly see how I perform this in practice, because I pretty much repeat this combo every time I on-field with Skirk. So first, tap skill. Obviously this is to enter her 7-phase flash and her actual enhanced normal attacks. So then you see a normal attack string. So her 5th normal attack is the big slash. You'll see, you can kind of see the outline of it. There's a big rift, so she does 5 normal attacks. That's her 5th one. You can see it again. So tap skill into 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the 5th one is the one that can be cancelled. It has a long animation, so we went to cancel it. This is where special burst comes in. Now, usually people use special burst near the beginning to absorb void risk. Well, you can attack first and just use it later. And the special burst can be used to cancel this N5. So you can see I do the N5 and I don't really do the full animation. I immediately press it and she already is in her special burst. So that's the first N5 done. So then I do 2 additional N5s and then dash cancel each one of them. So if I play this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, then at this final slash, you'll see I will ensure that the big rift slash will appear on the screen before dashing. So you see, I did the dash cancel successful because I didn't just let Skirk do her full animation, but I immediately dashed, and I do see the slash here, so that means I did perform the N5 and didn't cancel it early. So after this attack, her Serpent Subtlety bar, as you can see, is getting really low, so I went to charge attack to absorb these 2 rifts. However, the charge attack can be pretty slow in its animation, so the best thing to do is actually to do 2 normal attacks and then charge attack. The first 2 normal attacks that she does is fairly quick, and it kind of leads into the charge attack very easily, making it easily cancelable. Looking at this again, I don't think I actually did 2 normal attacks into a charge attack. I did 1 normal attack into a charge attack, so I did miss an attack here, so my bad here. But yes, doing at least 1 or 2 normal attacks before a charge attack is optimal. So you can see here, I'm dashing, then I do 1 and then charge attack. So I definitely didn't do that optimally. However, I was able to do the charge attack cancel very quickly. So after the normal attack into charge attack, you see the charge attack here, I immediately dash afterwards and then start the next N5 string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I do a dash. And then I'm just about to run out of Skirk's on time, and I managed to hit 1, 2 normal attacks. And you see that last one was like pretty quick. Then I immediately swap to Farina because her on field's over. If I do any more normal attacks on Skirk, she's going to do physical normal attacks. So then at this point, I can basically redo the entire rotation again. So one of the main reasons this took a while is because of just crit RNG for damage and also Fab RNG, because my Favonius sword on Farina is only R1. So in this scenario, my Farina burst is almost up and I just use skill. However, I do see the clear particles, so I'm perfectly fine just waiting for the clear particles to go into Farina so I can use her burst. Now there were a lot of scenarios where this wasn't possible, and I just decided to swap to Escoffier and use her skill and then swap back to Farina so she can use her burst. Now, I'm not sure if I had to do this would be clearable. That's a story for maybe another universe, but in this universe, I was able to get enough energy on Farina so I can just wait around, then use her burst instantly, then we can kind of start the rotation again. So E, Q on Farina, then swap to Escoffier. Again, burst is barely up, so I can just E, and I kind of wait around just because I don't really have much to do, but I know that the particles are coming, so it's fine. I'll just wait for the burst. Ideally, I have the burst up, but you know what? It's fine, right? Use the burst. Then this time I don't QE on Charlotte because I'm not funneling from Escoffier's particles, so I'm just going to EQ so to funnel her skills particles into Charlotte. Then we kind of repeat the same process again. At this point, because my team is triple cryo, I do not have to worry about the boss reactivating again. There's just plenty of cryo application and the boss is just standing there. So in a way, this is a pretty free boss and it's just a target dummy. So I do the same combo here. Tap skill, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Special Q, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dash, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dash, 1, 2. Charge attack, dash, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dash 1, 2, then swap to Farina. That is the combo that I'm talking about. 24 normal attacks, pretty optimized. I wouldn't say it's the best, but very optimized for Skirk. And then at this point, I'm kind of in the same scenario again. Almost have Farina's burst up, kind of need a Fav proc, but I probably get a Fav proc here. Yes, I got a proc there. And at this point, the boss is about to exit its little attack phase and will start moving around and attacking. Pretty much, you could just ignore it. It's just repeat the same rotation again. So E, Q on Farina, swap to Escoffier, E, wait around until I get enough energy, Q, Charlotte, E, Q, and do the same Skirk rotation again. Exact same thing that I've done the previous 2 times. And as you can see, the boss is moving around attacking, kind of just ignores attacks. I'm getting healed by Escoffier, that's fine. Then after the same old Skirk combo, again, just repeat again. Now this attack right here is the most dangerous attack, and in some timings and attack patterns, my Skirk just died, so that was kind of unlucky. But this time I'm just doing the same thing here, where after the Skirk combo ends, I use my other support skills. Now this time I don't have Farina's burst up. That's fine, because after this attack, the boss will start to go into its attack phase again, where at the beginning he's just not going to take any damage. So kind of delaying a little bit is fine, and just getting enough energy before the actual damage rotation. So just trying to get some Fab procs and using their skills again. I just run away from the attack because I don't want to die. So here at this point, I have enough energy. Had to use Farina's skill, then Escoffier skill, then swap back. But as I said, delaying a little bit is fine, just to make sure they have their bursts, both of their bursts up. So swap back to Farina, use her burst. Swap to Escoffier, use her burst. Then at this point, this is where Charlotte really comes to shine. When I was doing this with Rosaria, the timings just didn't work out. It could have been just animation times in general. Maybe Rosaria has longer or shorter animations. However, there were a lot of cases when I was playing with Rosaria where at this point, I would have already used Farina, Escoffier, and Rosaria, and this is where I want to swap to Skirk. However, at this moment, the boss is trying to use his little spinny hydro attack, and he is not going to take any damage. So you kind of waste a lot of Skirk's next damage phase, because at this moment, he's not taking any damage. His res is super high. And this is where Charlotte being a catalyst comes in. So right now, normally I would just EQ on Charlotte and then swap to Skirk. However, because Charlotte is a catalyst, I can kind of just stand around and wait for the boss to start doing his attack. So I use burst a little bit preemptively, that's fine. But then I do just spam normal attacks, and because she's a cryo catalyst, some of her cryo application will just start taking down that bar. And you see that is pretty helpful, because by the time I use her burst here, which is also an additional off-field cryo application, and do a little bit of extra normal attacks, the bar is pretty much sufficient enough with Escoffier's off-skill hitting and Charlotte's burst hitting, where once I on-field with Skirk the next time, her damage is not going to get blocked by any higher res from the boss. The boss will get shut down with that remaining off-field cryo application, and she's going to deal full damage. So you can see at this point I will tap skill here and start doing the same exact combo. And at this point the bar is completely frozen, the boss is frozen, and Skirk will actually be doing damage to the boss. Big W for Charlotte here. So again, I kind of just do the same rotation, tap skill, 5 normal attacks, special burst, do the same old with the dash cancel. Now you can see that it is 20 seconds left, and I do want to do another Skirk on field. So I do decide to just cut her on field here earlier so I can reuse and reapply Farina and Escoffia's burst and get some buff refreshes from Charlotte as well. So I continue doing the normal combo here, but as you can see right around here, I could do another N5. However, I just swap out early because well, the timer is running out, and I need to get another Skirk on field in because I'm not killing the boss with an extra N5. If I finish this extra N5 here, right, the boss is not dying. I need to go on Skirk again. So I end Skirk's on field early so her skill can come back earlier. Then use Farina's burst. I skipped the skill here, I believe. Actually, I don't skip the skill. So I use Farina's burst here. Use the skill. Escoffia's burst, skill. Now remember what I said in the beginning, when you first like freeze the boss, he gives a ton of energy particles, which is why there is absolutely no energy problems here, because I broke the boss earlier, everyone got enough energy for this final rotation. So Escoffia burst, I think I used skill there earlier, and then at this point 10 seconds left, I use the remaining support, so Charlotte E into Q, then pretty much it is pray that the boss dies. Now I've done this boss like a lot of times where I looked at the HP bar and I saw like I had 7 seconds left and Skirk just started her on field. I was pretty confident at this point that the boss would just die. However, it was still very close and I just had to pray that Skirk would do enough damage. Do the exact same rotation, no choking or anything, and with 1 second left I was able to defeat the boss. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that clear and kind of my explanation behind the clear. I don't think my free-to-play account has the necessary resources and characters to clear the other bosses, but who knows, maybe I'll slam my head against those bosses when I have the time. And that's pretty much all I got, so yeah, hope you enjoyed the video.